The house stood glowing at the end of the street, every window alive with light, music spilling into the quiet neighborhood like it owned the night. Cars lined both sides of the road, luxury brands mixed with unfamiliar faces, people laughing loudly as they stepped onto the perfectly trimmed lawn. Inside, the party was already in full motion, glasses clinking, voices rising, a celebration that looked flawless from the outside. Ethan Walker moved through the crowd like a man who believed this moment belonged to him. He wore a tailored navy suit, his posture confident, his smile easy. This was his house, his success, his night. He greeted guests with firm handshakes and warm laughs, accepting compliments about the decor, the music, the wine. People admired the grand staircase, the crystal chandelier, the art on the walls. Everything said money, power, and control. At his side stood Vanessa Clark, elegant in a deep red dress that caught the light with every step she took. Her hand rested lightly on Ethan's arm as if it belonged there. She smiled politely at the guests, her eyes sharp, observant. To anyone watching, they looked like the perfect couple hosting a perfect party. Only one thing was missing. The woman whose name was still on the house deed. Claire Walker was not inside the house when the party began. She sat in her car a few blocks away, the engine turned off, the street dark and silent around her. She had not planned to come. Not at first. She had learned about the party by accident that afternoon, from a coworker who lived nearby. "Is everything okay at home?" the woman had asked casually. "I saw the invite online. Looks like a big celebration." Claire had felt the room tilt slightly as she asked, "What invite?" The words replayed in her mind now as she stared through the windshield, her hands resting calmly in her lap. She had gone home after work, opened her laptop, and found it easily. The photos, the public post, the comments. Ethan had not even tried to hide it. A housewarming celebration, he had called it. A new chapter. Hosted by Ethan Walker and Vanessa Clark. Claire closed her eyes briefly, breathing in, breathing out. She did not cry. She did not shake. Somewhere deep inside her, something settled into place, quiet and clear. She stepped out of the car and walked toward the house. Inside, Ethan raised his glass to get everyone's attention. The music softened as people turned toward him. Vanessa smiled beside him, her hand still on his arm. "I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight," Ethan said. "This house has seen a lot of change, and I'm excited about what's ahead." Polite applause followed. Glasses lifted. Laughter returned. Then the front door opened. Claire did not rush. She did not hesitate. She walked in as if she had every right to be there, because she did. She wore a simple black dress, elegant without trying, her hair neatly styled, her face calm. No anger showed on her expression. No sadness. Just composure. A few guests nearest the door noticed her first. Their smiles faltered. Conversations paused mid-sentence. One by one, heads turned. The energy in the room shifted, like a sudden drop in temperature. Ethan saw her and froze. For a moment, his confident expression slipped. His grip on the glass tightened. Vanessa's smile faded slowly as she followed his gaze. Claire stopped a few steps inside the room. She looked around, taking in the decorations, the guests, the music still humming softly in the background. Her eyes finally met Ethan's. "Hello," she said evenly. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Ethan cleared his throat. "Claire," he said, forcing a smile that did not reach his eyes. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I'm sure," she replied calmly. Vanessa straightened, her posture defensive. "Ethan," she said quietly, "who is this?" Ethan hesitated. Just a second too long. "My wife," Claire answered for him. A ripple of shock moved through the guests. Whispers spread quickly, curiosity lighting up faces. Phones slipped discreetly into hands, screens glowing as people pretended not to stare. Vanessa's face tightened. "Your wife," she repeated softly. "Yes," Claire said. "Still." Ethan stepped forward, lowering his voice. "This isn't the time or place." Claire smiled faintly. "I disagree. You made it public. I'm just responding in person." She turned slightly, addressing the room. "I won't take much of your time. I just wanted to see the house filled like this." It looks impressive. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned in, drawn by the tension. Ethan tried to regain control. Claire, let's talk privately. We will, she said. Soon. But first, I wanted to thank you. That caught him off guard. Thank me? Yes, she said. For showing me exactly where things stand. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thin folder. It was plain, unremarkable. But when she held it, something in the room seemed to tighten. I see a lot of new faces here, she continued. Friends, colleagues, business partners. I think it's important everyone understands what kind of foundation this beautiful house stands on. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. Claire, stop. She looked at him, her expression steady. I spent years supporting this household. I helped build this life. I handled the finances, the details, the things that didn't show at parties like this. Vanessa crossed her arms. This is inappropriate. Claire turned to her. You're right. But so is hosting a party in a shared home without the knowledge of the other owner. A murmur spread through the room. Owner, someone whispered. Claire opened the folder. Inside were copies of documents, neatly organized. This house, Claire said, her voice clear, is in both our names. Purchased during our marriage. Every improvement, every upgrade, every payment. Ethan stepped closer, his voice tense. You don't need to do this. I do, she said quietly, because silence is what allowed this to happen. She looked back at the guests. I'm not here to cause a scene. I just wanted everyone to understand that some stories have more than one side. The room felt heavy now. The music had stopped completely. No one laughed. No one spoke. Vanessa's confidence wavered. She glanced around, noticing the judgment in some eyes, the discomfort in others. This was not how she had imagined the night. Claire closed the folder and tucked it back into her bag. Enjoy the party, she said. I'll be in touch, Ethan. About the house. And everything else. She turned and walked toward the stairs, then paused. Oh, she added, glancing back, you might want to tell your guests the truth next time. It makes evenings like this much simpler. She left the room without another word, the soft click of her heels echoing against the floor. The front door closed behind her. For several seconds, no one moved. Ethan stood frozen, his face pale, the glass in his hand untouched. Vanessa slowly removed her hand from his arm. The party had not ended, but something far more important had already begun. The party did not recover after Claire left. Music eventually returned, but it sounded hollow, like noise filling an empty space. Guests lingered out of curiosity more than enjoyment, whispering behind polite smiles. Some left early, offering quick excuses. Others stayed, pretending nothing had happened while clearly replaying the scene in their minds. Ethan felt every second stretch heavier than the last. He laughed when someone spoke to him, nodded when required, but his focus was gone. His confidence had drained away with Claire's footsteps. The house felt different now, as if it no longer belonged to him in the way he believed it did. Vanessa stood near the kitchen island, gripping her champagne glass too tightly. Her earlier elegance had turned rigid. She avoided eye contact with guests, her thoughts racing. This was not part of her plan. She had known Ethan was married, yes, but she had believed the marriage was already finished in everything but paperwork. That was how he had explained it. That was how he had made it sound safe. You told me she was out of the picture, Vanessa said quietly when they finally stood alone. Ethan rubbed his forehead. She is. Or she was supposed to be. That didn't look like someone who was done, Vanessa replied. That looked like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Ethan said nothing. Somewhere deep down, he knew she was right. Later that night, after the last guest left and the lights were dimmed, the silence became unbearable. Empty glasses covered the counters. Decorations looked tired, out of place. Ethan stood alone in the living room, staring at the staircase where Claire had paused before leaving. He did not sleep. Across town, Claire sat at her kitchen table, a cup of tea growing cold in front of her. The apartment was small, temporary, nothing like the house she had once called home. Yet she felt calmer here than she had in months. She had not gone there to argue. She had not gone there to beg or accuse. She had gone to reclaim something far more important than the house. Control. Her phone buzzed on the table. Ethan's name lit up the screen. She let it ring. Then it buzzed again. And again. She finally answered on the fourth call. "You embarrassed me," Ethan said immediately, his voice sharp. Claire smiled faintly. "That wasn't my intention." "You knew what you were doing." "Yes," she replied. "So did you." There was a pause. "Why now?" he asked. "Why not talk to me privately?" "Because you stopped listening privately a long time ago," Claire said. "Public choices sometimes require public clarity." "You could have ruined my reputation," Ethan snapped. "You did that yourself," she said calmly. "I simply showed up." He exhaled hard. "What do you want?" Claire looked around the quiet apartment. "I want fairness. And honesty. Things we used to agree on." Silence followed. "Then, we'll talk tomorrow," Ethan said. "We will," Claire agreed. "With lawyers." The line went dead. The next morning, the story had already begun to spread. A few guests had posted vague comments online. Someone had shared a blurry photo of Claire standing in the living room. No names were mentioned, but people talked. In Ethan's world, perception mattered almost as much as truth. At work, his colleagues treated him differently. Some avoided him. Others were suddenly polite in a distant way. He checked his phone constantly, watching messages go unanswered. Vanessa did not call. Claire, meanwhile, sat in a quiet office downtown, across from a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. The lawyer listened carefully as Claire spoke, her tone steady, her facts precise. "You're in a strong position," the lawyer said finally. "But strength is not just about paperwork. It's about timing." Claire nodded. "I've learned that." They reviewed documents, finances, records Claire had kept over the years without thinking she would ever need them. Every payment. Every signature. Every agreement. She had been organized then out of habit. Now it was protection. "Do you want to push hard?" the lawyer asked, "or do you want to be strategic?" Claire did not answer immediately. She thought of Ethan's confident smile at the party, of Vanessa's hand on his arm, of the way he had introduced a new chapter while she still lived in the old one. "Strategic," Claire said. That afternoon, Ethan received official notice. He read it twice, then a third time. His hands trembled slightly. This was not what he had expected. Not anger. Not chaos. This was clean. Precise. Controlled. He drove to the house and walked through the empty rooms, trying to remind himself why he had wanted all of this. The space echoed with memories he could not push away. Dinners. Laughter. Quiet mornings. Claire's presence had been so steady he had mistaken it for something permanent that required no care. His phone rang. "Vanessa. Why didn't you tell me the house was jointly owned?" she asked, her voice tight. "I didn't think it mattered," Ethan said. "It matters now," she replied. "I look foolish." Ethan closed his eyes. "This is getting complicated." "No," Vanessa said. "It already is. And I don't want to be standing in the middle when it collapses." She ended the call before he could respond. That evening, Claire returned to the apartment and cooked herself a simple meal. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if reminding herself she had time. She ate in silence, then opened her laptop. There was an email waiting. From Ethan. He wanted to meet. He wanted to talk things through. He wanted to avoid mistakes. Claire read the message once, then closed the laptop. She did not respond immediately. She went to bed and slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The next day, she replied with one sentence. "We will meet soon, under the right conditions." Ethan stared at the screen, frustration tightening his chest. He had thrown a party to show the world he was moving forward. Instead, he had exposed how little control he truly had. And Claire had only just begun. The meeting took place in a quiet office overlooking the city, neutral ground chosen carefully. The room was modern and clean, with large windows and a long wooden table that felt more like a negotiation space than a place for emotional closure. Claire arrived first. She sat calmly, her hands folded, her posture relaxed. She had dressed simply, not to impress, but to remind herself who she was beyond the marriage, beyond the house, beyond the noise. Ethan arrived 10 minutes later. He looked different. Not unkempt, but tired in a way that could not be hidden by good tailoring. He paused when he saw Claire, as if unsure how to greet her. In the past, he would have leaned in for a polite hug, something automatic and familiar. Now he simply nodded and took a seat across from her. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I said I would," Claire replied. There was a brief silence. The city moved below them, people walking, cars stopping at lights, life continuing without pause. It struck Ethan suddenly how small his personal drama was in the larger world, yet how completely it had consumed him. "I never wanted things to go like this," he began. Claire did not interrupt. She waited. "I thought we were already finished," he continued. "I didn't think you'd care." "That was your first mistake," Claire said gently. "Assuming silence means absence." Ethan leaned back, exhaling slowly. "You could have ruined everything for me that night." "I could have," Claire said. "But I didn't. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I didn't take anything that wasn't already mine." She slid a folder across the table. Ethan recognized it immediately. His jaw tightened. More documents. "Clarity," Claire said. "Something we lost along the way." He opened the folder reluctantly. Inside were updated valuations, financial summaries, legal notes. It was thorough, uncomfortable, undeniable. "You've been preparing for this," Ethan said. "I've been living my life," Claire replied. Preparation came naturally. He looked up at her. "What do you want, Claire? Really?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "I want the house sold. I want a fair division of assets. I want a clean ending." "And if I say no?" Ethan asked. She smiled slightly. "Then the process becomes longer, more expensive, more public." The word public lingered between them. Ethan closed the folder. "You've changed." "No," Claire said. "I've been paying attention." He leaned forward. "Was this about Vanessa?" "This was about respect," Claire replied. "Vanessa was a symptom, not the cause." Another silence settled. Ethan glanced toward the window, watching a man below laugh into his phone. Life looked simple from a distance. "I thought throwing that party would make things clear," he said quietly. "I thought it would draw a line." "It did," Claire said. "Just not the one you expected." Ethan's phone buzzed on the table. He ignored it. "What happens next?" he asked. "My lawyer will contact yours," Claire said. "We follow the agreement outlined here." "And emotionally," he added. "What happens then?" Claire considered the question. "That part is already happening." He studied her face, searching for anger, sadness, anything familiar. What he saw instead unsettled him more. Peace. After the meeting, Claire walked out into the sunlight feeling lighter than she had in years. The city air felt crisp. She stopped at a cafe, ordered coffee, and sat by the window, watching people pass. She was not rushing toward anything. For once, she did not need to. Ethan returned to the house alone. The silence greeted him again, louder than before. He walked from room to room, touching furniture, walls, memories. Everything felt temporary now. He checked his phone. Messages from Vanessa filled the screen. "Where do we stand? This is getting messy. I don't like being caught in the middle." He typed, deleted, typed again. "I need time," he finally sent. Her reply came quickly. "I don't think time is what this needs." Later that week, the formal notice arrived for the sale of the house. The listing went live quietly, professionally. But in Ethan's circle, nothing stayed quiet for long. Questions followed. Speculation grew. Invitations slowed. At work, he was passed over for a project he expected to lead. No explanation was given. Just polite smiles and vague excuses. Claire, meanwhile, moved forward steadily. She packed what little remained at the apartment and began looking for a place of her own. Not too large. Not too small. Something that belonged only to her. One afternoon, she received a message from an unfamiliar number. "This is Vanessa." Claire paused before replying. "I hope you don't mind me reaching out," the message continued. "I just wanted to understand." Claire read it carefully. Then she responded, "I don't mind. What do you want to understand?" There was a delay. Then, "Did he ever plan to leave you?" Claire considered the question honestly. He planned to feel justified. Another pause. Then, "That answer's enough." They did not speak again. As the weeks passed, the house emptied. Furniture was sold. Art removed. Rooms echoed. Ethan watched strangers walk through during open viewings, commenting on the space, imagining their futures where his past had been. One evening, he found a box in the garage labeled simply Claire. Inside were old photographs, letters, small objects she had forgotten. Things he had overlooked while chasing something new. He sat on the floor and looked through them slowly, realizing too late that the stability he once dismissed had been the very thing holding him together. Claire stood in her new apartment that same evening, unpacking boxes. She hung one photograph on the wall. Not of the house. Not of Ethan. Just a quiet moment from before everything changed. Her phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer. Offer accepted. Closing scheduled. Claire closed her eyes and smiled. The story was nearing its end. But the final moment, the one that would truly shock everyone, had not yet arrived. The closing day arrived quietly, without celebration or noise. No cameras. No raised voices. Just signatures, documents, and the steady movement of time doing what it always did. Claire sat in the conference room, calm and focused, her pen moving smoothly across the paper. She did not rush. She did not hesitate. Each signature felt like a door closing gently, not slammed, but firmly enough to stay shut. Ethan sat across from her, silent. He watched her sign, noticing the absence of emotion on her face. Not cold. Not bitter. Simply resolved. It unsettled him more than anger ever could. When his turn came, his hand paused for a fraction of a second before he signed. The ink dried quickly. So did the chapter. The house was officially no longer theirs. When it was done, the lawyer shook hands, offered polite words, and left them alone in the room for a brief moment. Sunlight filtered through the window, casting long shadows across the table. "I didn't think it would end like this," Ethan said quietly. Claire gathered her papers. "Most things don't." He searched her face again, hoping to find regret. "Was any of it real to you?" She looked at him, not unkindly. "It was real. That's why I refused to let it become a lie." There was nothing more to say. Claire stood, nodded once, and walked out. Outside, the air felt lighter. She took a slow breath and stepped into her car. This time, when she drove away, there was no weight pulling her back. The house sold quickly. The buyers were a young family, excited, hopeful, unaware of the story the walls had once held. For them, it was a beginning. For Ethan, it was a reminder of what endings looked like when you ignored the warning signs. Vanessa had already disappeared from his life by then. No dramatic goodbye. No confrontation. Just distance growing until silence replaced expectation. She moved on, quietly, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a faint sense of embarrassment she preferred not to examine too closely. Ethan's world shrank. Invitations slowed, then stopped. Conversations became brief and careful. People remembered the party, even if they pretended not to. Reputation did not collapse overnight. It eroded, slowly, like trust. One afternoon, weeks later, Ethan found himself driving past Claire's old apartment by habit. He slowed, then continued on, realizing she no longer lived there. He did not know where she was now. That knowledge hurt more than he expected. Claire, meanwhile, settled into her new life with quiet intention. Her new home was modest, filled with light and warmth. She chose each piece of furniture herself, each color, each small detail. There were no memories attached yet. That was the point. She returned to routines she had once postponed. Morning walks. Cooking meals she enjoyed. Reconnecting with friends she had drifted from without noticing. The noise faded. The clarity remained. One evening, she attended a small gathering hosted by a colleague. Nothing extravagant. Just conversation, laughter, ease. Someone asked about her past, casually, without judgment. I was married, Claire said simply. I learned a lot. No explanations followed. None were needed. A few months later, Ethan saw a photo online. Claire stood at an event, smiling softly, surrounded by people who looked genuinely glad to be near her. She was not trying to impress anyone. She did not need to. The comments beneath the photo spoke volumes. Respect. Admiration. Quiet support. That was the moment something inside Ethan finally settled. He understood then what had truly shocked everyone. It was not that Claire had confronted him at the party. It was not the documents. It was not the sale of the house. It was that she had walked away without destroying herself to make a point. She had not begged. She had not screamed. She had not competed. She had chosen herself. And in doing so, she had taken back everything that mattered. Months later, Claire received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single sentence, written carefully. I'm sorry I mistook your silence for weakness. Claire read it once, then folded the paper and placed it in a drawer. Not to hold on to it. Just to acknowledge it. She stepped onto her balcony, the city stretching out before her, alive and full of possibility. The past no longer followed her like a shadow. It stayed where it belonged. Behind her. The story that began with a lavish party ended not with applause, but with dignity. And that was what shocked everyone the most.